My business partner took credit for a major deal and pushed me out. In court, he claimed she had nothing to do with it. I waited for my turn and presented emails showing I negotiated the entire deal. His lawyer looked down in defeat as the judge sided with me. This happened a few years ago, but I still think about it. I built a business from nothing, put in years of work, and got completely screwed over by someone I trusted. He tried to erase me, but he underestimated just how much I keep every single receipt. Let's start from the beginning. The business and the deal that changed everything I used to run a commercial real estate firm in Chicago with my business partner, Mike. We had known each other for years and started the company together when we were both in our late 30s. Mike and I had different strengths. I handled negotiations, contracts, and the actual business side of things. Mike was good at networking, shaking hands, making small talk, showing up at events, but not much else. For the first few years, things were good. We weren't millionaires, but we were growing. Our client base expanded, and our reputation was solid. We were finally getting noticed by bigger players. Then I landed the deal. It was with a major corporate client looking to expand in Chicago. We're talking millions of dollars in commission, and it would cement us as serious players in the industry. I spent months handling the negotiations. Countless calls, meetings, contract reviews. Late nights, early mornings. I went back and forth with their legal team, adjusted the terms, fought for better conditions. Mike sat in on a few calls, nodded along, and made vague comments like, "Yeah, this is a great opportunity for both of us." That was the extent of his contribution. I didn't care at the time because I thought we were a team. We would both benefit from this. I was wrong. The betrayal about a week before we were set to finalize everything, I got locked out of my work email. I thought it was a mistake. Maybe an IT issue? I tried to log into our shared business accounts, nothing. I texted Mike. No response. Then I got an email from our company lawyer. It was a formal letter stating that I was being removed from the company due to irreconcilable business differences. I read it at least 3 times, thinking I was misunderstanding something. What business differences? I called Mike. He didn't pick up. I drove to our office. My keycard didn't work. At this point, I was shaking with rage. I owned half the company. Mike couldn't just kick me out. I finally got him on the phone later that night. He sounded so calm. "Listen," he said. "I think it's just time for the company to move in a new direction. I know this is hard for you, but let's be adults about it." Be adults about it? I demanded to know what the hell he was talking about. Then he said something that made my vision go red. "You weren't really involved in the deal, anyway. It was mostly me." I had to physically put my phone down and take a breath before I screamed. This man, who had done nothing, was claiming that I had nothing to do with it? He wasn't just screwing me over. He was erasing me. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten him. I just said, "Okay." Then I started planning. The lawsuit the next day, I called a lawyer. A good one. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about getting my old job back. At this point, it was about principle. Mike thought he could just push me out and take all the credit? He thought I'd just go away quietly? Absolutely not. We filed the lawsuit. Mike tried to play dumb. His official response was that my contributions to the company had been minimal and that I was disruptive to the business. But in court, his argument was simple. She didn't do much. The deal was mine. I sat there and listened to him lie through his teeth. His lawyer spoke with so much confidence. They painted me as an unimportant former partner who had no real role in the success of the company. They were so sure of themselves. Then it was my turn. I stood up, walked over to the evidence table, and pulled out a thick binder. Every single email. Hundreds of messages between me and the clients. Emails confirming my negotiations. Texts from Mike himself, thanking me for handling contract disputes. Meeting notes where he wasn't even present. I handed it all to the judge. Mike's lawyer physically slumped in his chair. Mike went pale. The judge started reading. The silence in that courtroom was beautiful. The judge flipped through the binder, page by page, his face unreadable. Mike shifted in his chair. His lawyer looked down, probably wishing he had vetted his client's story a little better. I didn't look at Mike. I kept my eyes on the judge, watching his expression as he read emails where I negotiated every term of the deal, secured client commitments, and revised contracts, all without Mike's input. After what felt like forever, the judge set the binder down and turned to Mike. "Mr. Reynolds, yeah, let's call him that. Do you have any evidence to counter this?" Mike's mouth opened, then closed. His lawyer scrambled. "Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess to review this new evidence." The judge raised an eyebrow. "New? This was submitted before trial. You had ample time." His lawyer stammered. The judge was done playing games. "Proceed," he said. That's when things got worse for Mike. The lies unravel. Mike's lawyer tried to stall. He asked meaningless questions. He repeated things we had already gone over. He tried to poke holes in my credibility, but my answers were solid. Then my lawyer dropped the bomb. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, "can you confirm when you first initiated contact with the client?" Mike cleared his throat. Sometime in early April?" My lawyer nodded. "And you personally handled all negotiations?" "Correct." She walked back to the evidence table and pulled out one single printed email. Then she read it aloud. It was an email from me, dated March 10th, weeks before Mike claimed he had made first contact. It was me reaching out to the client, introducing myself, explaining our services. Mike's face twitched. The next email was the client responding only to me. They had never even spoken to Mike. Then came another one, an email from Mike himself, asking me for an update on my negotiations with them. The judge's face darkened. "So, Mr. Reynolds," my lawyer said, "when exactly did you begin handling this deal?" Mike licked his lips. I mean, we worked together. It was a team effort." "That's not what you said earlier," my lawyer shot back. Mike's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honor, this line of questioning continue," the judge interrupted. Mike's hands clenched into fists. He knew he was caught. But he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. The desperate move after court adjourned for the day, I left feeling confident. Mike was sweating, his lawyer looked like he wanted to quit, and I knew we had the upper hand. But Mike wasn't done being a snake. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. And another. Finally, I answered. "Hey," Mike said, his voice way too casual. "Listen, I think we should talk." I laughed. "Now you want to talk?" "This is stupid, okay?" he said quickly. "This whole legal battle, do we really need to go through with this?" I said nothing. "Look," he continued, "I know you put in work. I get that. But do you really want to drag this out? Lawyers are expensive, right? We can work something out. We don't have to do this in court." I leaned against my counter, shaking my head. "Mike," I said slowly, "are you trying to settle?" "I'm saying we can make this easier," he said. "You drop the case, and I'll make sure you get something out of this." I almost laughed. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You stole my deal, kicked me out of my own company, lied under oath, and now you're offering me something if I just let it go?" Silence. "Mike," I said. And I hung up. The twist I didn't see coming. I thought that would be the end of it. That we'd go back to court, finish him off, and I'd get what I deserved. But I wasn't dealing with a rational person. Mike panicked. And when snakes panic, they do stupid things. The next morning, my lawyer called me. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "Why?" She exhaled. "Mike and his lawyer just filed a motion against you." "For what?" She hesitated. "They're claiming you falsified documents." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You're kidding." I wish I was. Mike was accusing me of fabricating the very emails that had already been submitted into evidence. He was claiming I faked my role in the deal. I should have seen it coming. I exposed him as a liar, and now he was trying to flip it on me. But Mike forgot one very important thing. I don't just keep emails. I keep everything. I stared at my phone, gripping it so hard my knuckles turned white. Mike was now accusing me of fabricating emails? I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This was desperate. This was stupid. And I wasn't worried, because Mike had no idea just how deep my receipts went. The new battle. My lawyer wasted no time tearing apart Mike's bogus claim. First of all, she told me, he's an idiot. Those emails were pulled directly from company servers. Your digital footprint is everywhere. If anyone faked anything, it sure as hell wasn't you. But we still had to deal with it. Mike's lawyer filed an official motion to have my emails thrown out as evidence on the grounds that they were questionable. If the judge granted it, I'd lose my biggest weapon. But here's where Mike made his biggest mistake yet. By filing that motion, he unknowingly opened the door for a full forensic audit of all company communications. I don't know if his lawyer was in on his little stunt or just blindly following orders, but the moment they submitted that request, my lawyer responded with one of her own, a subpoena for all company emails, server logs, and message history. Everything. If Mike wanted to question my emails, then we were going to question every single piece of communication he had ever sent while we were in business together. I don't think Mike expected that, because 3 days later, he tried to withdraw his motion. But it was too late. The judge approved our subpoena. And what we found? Let's just say Mike wasn't just a liar. He was a criminal. The smoking gun. The forensic audit pulled every email from the company servers, including Mike's deleted messages. Mike thought deleting emails made them disappear forever. It doesn't. Not only did we find proof that Mike was fully aware I had negotiated the deal, but we also found something way worse. Mike had been embezzling company funds. Hidden transactions. Unexplained withdrawals. Fake invoices paid to companies that didn't exist. And the kicker? A single email from Mike to his accountant, just days before kicking me out, outlining his plan to push me out of the company before the deal closed. It was all there. His entire plan, in his own words. He was planning to sell the company right after finalizing the deal and keep all the money for himself. I felt sick. This wasn't just about screwing me over. He was trying to run away with everything. My lawyer looked at me, her eyes practically glowing. "We just hit the jackpot," she said. But we weren't done. Mike's meltdown court resumed the next day. Mike walked in, looking smug, completely unaware that his entire world was about to collapse. His lawyer looked uneasy, though. I could tell he had an idea of what was coming. We sat down. The judge entered. And my lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, we have newly discovered evidence." She handed the printed emails to the judge. Mike frowned. Then my lawyer did something ruthless. She turned to Mike's lawyer and said, "Mr. Reynolds, could you explain why your client instructed his accountant to remove Ms., my name, from company records before securing a multi-million-dollar deal?" Mike's entire body stiffened. His lawyer paled. He had no idea. The judge read through the papers. His face changed. Then he looked directly at Mike. "Mr. Reynolds, is this your email?" Silence. Mike froze. "Mr. Reynolds," the judge pressed. I swear, you could hear a pin drop. Then Mike did the dumbest thing he could have done. He denied it. "That's not my email," he blurted. His lawyer turned to him so fast I thought he might snap his neck. "Mike," his lawyer whispered. Mike kept shaking his head. "It's fake. She made that up." The judge cut him off. "Enough." He looked at the court clerk. "Bring in the forensic examiner." I had to bite my lip to keep from smiling. Because the forensic audit had already confirmed, without a doubt, that the email was real. It was over for Mike. But the real fireworks? They were just getting started. The final blow. Mike was in full meltdown mode. His lawyer whispered furiously in his ear, probably telling him to shut up before he made things worse. Too late. The judge turned to me. "Ms., my name, given this new evidence, do you wish to amend your case?" I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. I would like to file for additional damages, as well as a formal request for a criminal investigation into Mr. Reynolds' financial activities." Mike's lawyer immediately jumped up. "Your Honor, that's premature. There's no proof of criminal activity." My lawyer held up another document. "Actually, there is," she said, handing it over. It was a summary of the embezzlement. The fake invoices. The unauthorized withdrawals. The hidden payments. Mike's lawyer actually closed his eyes like he was praying for this to be a nightmare. Mike? He just sat there, staring at the table. The judge flipped through the papers. His jaw tightened. Then he looked back at Mike. "Mr. Reynolds, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Silence. Mike didn't say a word. Because he knew. He knew it was over. And he knew there was still one last thing coming. Mike sat there silent. His lawyer was whispering something in his ear, probably begging him to stop digging his own grave. But Mike wasn't listening. He just sat there, staring at the table, his face blank. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm giving you an opportunity to respond before I make a ruling." "Nothing." Mike's fingers twitched on the table, his jaw tight. And then, he snapped. The meltdown Mike suddenly yelled, slamming his fist on the table. The entire courtroom froze. His lawyer closed his eyes, probably wishing he could disappear. She manipulated this whole thing." Mike shouted, pointing at me. "She always wanted control. She's been trying to push me out for years." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Because every single person in that courtroom knew he was lying. The judge leaned forward, his expression dark. "Mr. Reynolds, I suggest you lower your voice immediately." Mike ignored him. "She wasn't supposed to win. This company was mine." There it was. His lawyer visibly winced at those words. Because Mike had just admitted, out loud, in court, that he had planned to take the company from me all along. The final blow. The judge took a deep breath, like he was trying very hard not to lose his patience. "Mr. Reynolds, I've heard enough. Based on the evidence provided, I am ruling in favor of Ms., my name." Mike's mouth dropped open. "You are ordered to pay all damages, including lost earnings and legal fees. Furthermore, based on the financial misconduct uncovered, I am referring this case for criminal investigation." Mike sagged in his chair like someone had just taken the air out of him. His lawyer put his head in his hands. The courtroom was dead silent. And then, just when I thought it was over, Mike did something even stupider. The pathetic last attempt. As the judge stood up to leave, Mike suddenly jumped to his feet. Wait. I can fix this." His voice cracked. He looked desperate. He turned to me. "Listen, we don't have to do this," he said quickly. "We can still fix this. We were partners. We don't have to let lawyers and judges decide this for us." I raised an eyebrow. Mike, we're literally standing in a courtroom because you kicked me out of my own company and lied under oath. He shook his head wildly. No, this all got out of hand. It was just business, okay? We don't have to let this ruin everything. Just business? I repeated. Yes, that's all it was. You can come back. We can figure something out. You don't have to do this to me. And there it was. Not an apology. Not regret. Just desperation. Because now he had nothing. The company? Gone. His money? About to be seized. His reputation? Destroyed. And I was the only person who ever actually kept things running. I stared at him, taking in the absolute wreck he had become. And then I smiled. Then I turned around and walked out of the courtroom. The aftermath, the fallout was instant. The criminal investigation moved quickly. It turned out Mike had been stealing from the company for years. Not just from me, from clients too. By the time everything was settled, he was completely bankrupt. Every account frozen. Every asset seized. And the best part? He was blacklisted from the industry. Word spread fast in real estate. No one would hire him. No one would work with him. Mike vanished after that. Last I heard, he left Chicago. Someone told me he was bartending in Florida, but I didn't care enough to check. As for me, I took my share of the money and rebuilt. I started my own firm. Many of our former clients reached out, eager to work with me again. Within a year, I was making more than I ever had with Mike. But more importantly, I was finally free. No snakes. No lies. Just success.